We're here. Our final speaker for the Queenstown Fast Conference was Kevin Biggar, a big adventurer, South Pole. How long was it?
It was 52 days.
52 days and 1,200 kilometres, and carrying enough food to get them back again.
Yeah.
So it was a real adventure.
It was it was an amazing time. It was really tough. We had lots of discussions when we were doing it, whether it was harder than the ocean, and yes, it was a lot harder because of the cold. So much harder.
How much of a thing does age play in it? Could you do it now at your age versus?
That's a really good question. No, I think for your, I think as you get older, actually, your stamina, I think there's a very slow drop off in speeds, and so you see that the long distance runners can be quite a bit older than you might think. Yeah. So, and Scott, I think, was like 42 or 43 on his last trip. So, if he can do it, then we can certainly do it.
Not this Scott. It was another Scott. Another Scott. You had, I mean, the audience loved it, and you had 5 key parts to your presentation. So can you just run through us again, because they're going to see this in a couple of weeks' time, just to refresh them on the 5 goal-kicking parts.
So what I like to talk about is the 5 hardest things. So the times when you're most likely to quit or go wrong as you take on a big challenge. So the first thing we talked about was facing the finish line. So that's this idea that it can be easy right at the very start when you've got no emotional investment to not continue or to participate in a challenge because you're focused on all the things that can go wrong and how hard it can be. So I tried to flip that on its head a little bit. You might remember the story of the mouse and the mousetrap. This idea that if you can foresee something that's going to go wrong, then you should often do something about that prior to that. You know, if you know it's going to be cold in the South Pole, then you take warm clothes. If you know you don't want to go for a run in the morning because you don't like going for a jog, then you can think, well, what would make that more fun? Maybe I should run with a friend. Maybe I should run with an iPod on.
So it really starts, though, at the goal at the very outset, to know, to recognise a finish line, so to set a goal?
To set a goal, definitely. But I think people have a lot of experience about setting goals and know how to, you know, the whole SMART goal setting and things like that. I just wanted to focus more on that that psychological side that you feel about, so that early on, you know, when I was thinking about taking on the ocean race, like if you've ever taken on a big sport event like a marathon, the hardest part is easily in the first week when you're trying to get your head around the fact that you're going to do this thing. And then you get a training plan, and then you start going for runs, and then you see it's just a question of chipping it down. The hardest part is getting your head around what you're going to do, what you're going to take on. And at the start of every year, I think when people have sales targets for themselves, they go, that's a huge mountain to climb. Like I say, don't flinch, just break it down, which we'll come to in a second. Because the second point that I wanted to make was about choosing to win. And I talked about that story of how that sports coach that I went to said, are you going to win or just take part? And what I took from that is that it's very powerful to start by thinking, what does success look like for me, and work your way backwards from that. Because we're all running around working as hard as we can, just trying a little bit harder, starting earlier and things like that. That's great, but it's not nearly as effective as saying, what does it take to be successful, and working your way backwards from there. I think you're working out what the milestones are, and then you work through the milestones.
Number 3?
Number 3 was playing as a team. So I had a couple of different things when I said about that. I think the most important thing that I talked about is when Jamie and I was about to take part in the transatlantic race, we didn't know each other at all. It's a race that eats teams up, so what do? We had a complicated set of lists of things that can go wrong. I think it's still worthwhile thinking about what the standard of conduct should be in a team. But as a useful day-to-day rule, I think it's just having this idea called the energy rule, not doing or saying anything that's going to reduce the energy of the team, is a very powerful thing.
Because negative can really bring down a moment.
Yeah, and in fact, I've since learned that if you've read The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell in that talks about, there's a researcher in there, he looks at newly married couples. He does an interview, a bit like we're doing actually, seeing them interact, and then he can predict with some extraordinary degree of accuracy whether they'll still be together in 5 years' time. And all he does is he looks at the ratio between positive and negative comments made.
Wow.
And the same research has been done on teams as well. And for them, they have, it's like a 1 to 5. So 4 things have to be good before any negative thing. So we knew we were going to be annoying each other, so the idea was we set ourselves a higher standard now that we're going to come back from that. But that's what we say, don't do us anything that's going to reduce the...
Positive criticism.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you shouldn't critique, the standards should still be high in the team. You're definitely allowed to call people on their performance, but you're not doing it in such a way that reduces the energy of the team.
Number 4?
That makes sense. Number 4 was...
testing you now.
No, I know what it is. I'm just trying to think the best way to intro it. Because it's a classic. But I think I'm not saying anything profound, but it's a fundamental. But it's one that I use every single day. And that's if you are being overwhelmed by the task. And who's not overwhelmed with the emails and the load that we get every day and all the things that we have to take on, just simply is to break it down into little steps, chunk it away. If I've set a goal and I find that I'm not working on it, it's because I'm trying to do too big chunks. It's a very interesting
that was
thing
a
that you
Hillary
do.
thought as well. Hillary used to say that I was always daunted looking up at the summit, but I knew that I looked down at my feet and went one step after the other, and I knew I'd trained to do that and I'd get there.
Really?
So your little steps is...
I should use that quote. That's a good one.
You should, I use it in my presentation.
Tell you what I've done that's really fun. There's a website you can go to called I Done This.
Is that grammatically correct?
No, but it's, I guess they're scratching to get the URLs they want at the moment. But it's called I Done This. All you do is, every time you finish a task each day, you write it into the website and it just records it.
Oh, yeah.
And the funny thing is, what you learn is the things that you do each day, the list which you write down, are very simple, specific things. What you set yourself to get done each day are complicated, nebulous things.
Yeah.
What you do is very specific things. If you can make your to-do list look more like your I done list before you I done it, that was the main lesson I got from that.
I'll check that. I done it.
Yeah, I done it. Yeah, and so the last one I'm talking about, and kind of the theme for the whole presentation, is this idea of persisting to the end. And to illustrate that story, I used that idea of the fact that the 2 days we gained the most in our competition were the days that the conditions were bad. We kept on sticking to what we were supposed to do, which is rowing to the end, and they put their sea anchors out. And that's the big difference. I mean,
and you were 25 miles ahead.
We were 25 miles ahead at the end. When conditions are tough, I think a big insight that I got from that sports coach was it's tough for the other teams as well. So you can either think poor me, or you can think, great, there's an opportunity for me because they're hurting just as bad. So if I can keep going during those times, then you'll get there in the end.
Where can people find you?
At my website, kevinbiggar.co.nz.
God, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Biggar.
Thank you, Scott.